So I really wanted to ask you, because very often what I am noticing is that there is still a lot of what I'd call very superficial judgments that come from you. Like there are some things, if you watch, for myself also, I'll tell you, I can watch any program. I can watch any program on television, anything at all, actually, or anywhere else. Just watch anything at all. What I notice with people, generally speaking, including people coming to Satsang, is that you have a lot of judgments. There are judgments like, okay, so we're spiritual, so we don't watch things like this. That's a very weak attitude, actually. You can watch anything, because everything is consciousness. First thing. Everything is consciousness. It's consciousness. It depends how you are inside yourself. Sometimes we are so much trying to maybe give people an impression that, I'm more spiritual than that, so I don't need to watch things like that. That's a very shallow attitude. You're able to look at, participate in life. I'm not saying go and do everything. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that to somehow remain true to your own consciousness. And don't be so weak and so fickle. We think that we're being so spiritual by saying, no, I don't watch things like that. But that is such a weak thing. It's okay if you say, look, no, I'm not in the mood for that right now, I'm going to go. And if that is genuinely coming from, I'm a bit tired, and that's just too noisy for me right now. There is a difference energetically than when it's coming from a kind of hierarchy of thought, like, well, that's a bit base, or I don't watch this, or I don't like to watch the news. That's a very weak thing. What I'm actually inviting you to, just to be open to life generally. And by that, I mean, television is just an exercise, because in fact you're looking at something, it gives some of the flavor of really what's happening. It's not really true, because it's not in real time. So somebody's already edited things and put them for you, like a meal that someone cooks rather than you cooking it yourself or something. So that's fine. But my examples still serve, that to just be open inside your consciousness, because it's not what you see, it's not what people say. Even a thought that appears in your mind can be what you may call a terrible thought, but it doesn't belong to you until you pick it up. Any thought can come inside your head. You don't order thoughts. Okay, I'd like, a dozen good thoughts today. You don't have this choice. It simply come. Things come into your mind. And then it's how you react with that. Whether you then pick that up and roll it into a story, then you start to participate, and then you can say you're thinking about something. So if you just allow, that can come, but somehow you don't engage with that, because that's something discerns energetically first, not just from the mind, because the mind normally is not so much discerning things energetically. It kind of somehow is using all types of little techniques about what you learn and your conditioning. So you're judging from conditioning. When something arises energetically, there's something very light about it. It's not heavy. It doesn't carry this strong psychological smell about it. And you move very naturally. So I'm not saying you should do this and you shouldn't do that. I'm just saying be aware of this. Because very often, if you're sitting with people, even if they don't speak and they have judgment, that energy is in the air. And if you're sensitive, you do pick it up. You do see when people have narrowed themselves off. Some people is like they've created or have a sense of some insecurity that they need you to say things good and nice to them all the time. Now, supposing nobody told you this, but if you're sensitive enough, you can pick up that vibration in them. That this person, something goes to you to say, oh, you look very nice. It's almost as though you're being pulled into a kind of interaction with someone where it's almost as though your part is already designed to act out being the one who says, oh, you look so beautiful, look so nice or something, because their energy is begging for that. So when you have reached a state where your consciousness and your attention is in a state of neutrality, there's so much space inside you. People can enter your presence And it's like, for some people, being with a certain kind of person is like meeting them inside a cardboard box. It's already tight. In another being, it's like you step into like an open panoramic space. There's so much space in them because they have no judgment. If you have judgment, already your room is shrinking. Your spiritual room is shrinking. The more judgments you have, the more likes and dislikes you have. You just become a very small thing. All this capacity and all this potential is inside us. I'm not saying, oh, this is what you should do to increase your capacity or increase. No, I'm just saying, find out who you are. Something is keeping this full immersion or recognition is keeping it a little bit away. Now, you may not realize this, but on some subconscious level, something is afraid just to be completely itself. It's not that the self is afraid to be itself, but we have created a sort of a relationship with certain ideas about self, and we are attached to these projections, these ideas, and we feel that without them you won't be able to function. Just like once upon a time nobody had mobile phones, and now if you can't find your mobile phone you feel a bit handicapped. This is just conditioning, and our minds, our beings are so loaded with conditionings now that rarely do you meet a human being whose presence emit this spaciousness, this silence, this peace, that is not just reacting to life, but being able to be so broad in your way, and yet you're not taken by anything. You're not conquered by anything at all. So forget trying to impress people, or trying to show them how spiritual, or demonstrate how silent you can be, or how high your thoughts are. It doesn't work. People just see you as a prude. Not that that matters, but maybe, at least maybe you think you're coming across a certain way, and you are coming across a certain way, but not the way you think. It is better just to be empty, not for the sake of what people think of you. And how to be empty is very difficult. If you still carry the smell of a person, you're still evolving. I mean, like, we are watching this show. I wanted to talk a little bit and use this show as a kind of like a trigger for a deeper conversation about it. I wanted to ask you a little bit, like, what did you feel about this show? Because here is a show, is a program that was made about a kind of real life scenario. That's what was actually happening. These people are not actors. It's just like what was happening. It's been edited and all of this stuff to create it and all this kind of noise and all this pizzazz around it. But if you look through it, you can see that there were real emotions, real feeling was happening there. In the beginning, maybe when you saw how things are, maybe a feeling of dismissiveness or judgment is there. But gradually you saw that a purer state of consciousness was being introduced to the people, and there was an elevation there. There was something that hindered on a higher state of looking. This is still within consciousness, and the people may become happier in their way of working together. But did they attain any freedom, real freedom? You see, and we can look at these programs and life generally and draw so much power from real understanding about human nature, and feel so much true emotion about it also. It's nothing to say, oh, you know, that's just they're all a joke. It's nothing, I shouldn't put any feeling. You can feel all these things with people and still never lose your inner composure. Not that you are composing yourself, but that calmness that comes with realizing the self. So sometimes when I'm with people in satsang, some of you, I feel very weak, I have to say. Some people very weak. It's like, you have to be careful what you say, because they're a little bit like, you're like little delicate flowers. I don't know if you're really like that. I don't really believe, well, of course I know you as the self are not like that, but what you're putting out of yourself is very weak very often, and not as weak as we see sometimes in around, But there's still this tendency, and when I watch television with everybody and we look, and I see and feel the energy of how you perceive and respond to things, I think you can do without that. It would be almost as though the television is playing to an empty room, but still there's watching, and still there's feeling, and still there's a kind of joy, and still there's feeling there, but it's not personal. It's not like personal, it's like the feelings of consciousness. But still there's too much person. Once I remember coming into a room and people were talking. I says, listen, there's too many people here. There's too many people. I was in this room actually. There's too many people here, and everybody started to leave. I said, no. There's too much people here. I want there to be presence here. If there's presence here, we can have we can have at least another 3 times the amount of people here, and it will still be a very shanty place. But if you're going to be a person here, maybe one person, everybody wants to go to sleep after, just can't take the energy of this one person. Sometimes when we look at programs like that, they trigger situations that are still alive in us, of personal things that that have happened to us in our lives or something like this. And maybe a part of that is still reacting inside your mind or something. I don't know if like this. Or if it is just a kind of habit and behavior and what you expect. Sometimes people come here for the first time. Quite a number of people come for the first time, especially even people who have written to come. But more often from people who just sort of drop in. And you see that they bring a sort of presence, which is almost like they expect that everybody here is just like they're coming from the pub or something. And they'll talk and they'll have very strong opinions, and it just stands out so strongly because energetically it's so different. If you're following my pointing, you should be able to be in any company, not because I choose to be in this, but simply because life places you wherever you are. And internally, you're just the same. Whoever you're speaking with, you don't have to be speaking with spiritual people, whatever that means. You may find that everything is a spirit, and just functioning in different ways. You don't judge, you just find that everywhere you are, you somehow find your balance is there with you. So I don't want to separate what you may call spiritual teaching and spiritual practice from just the life, because you'll be robbing yourself of an opportunity. Actually, I'm not different in any situation. Outwardly, maybe something, if I'm in Jamaica, maybe I speak more Jamaican or something, or whatever. But I'm no different from who I am inside. I'm not different. On the outside, your life can be like a chameleon in one way. But you're not being a chameleon. It's just somehow something adapts through the consciousness very naturally. But internally, you're the same, consistent. But not you being consistent, just the consistency is there.
Does that need practice?
That needs understanding and recognition, realization of the self. That's what you're here for. We're not here on kind of behavior therapy or something, but to realize and to be awake to ourself. But when I hear and I see people say, yeah, and I see, but really, you guys have had a fiesta of satsang, because you're in that environment constantly, and perhaps maybe in some cases just taken for granted. It is possible that there are people who probably spend 1/100th of the time you've spent and make 10 times the opportunity of it than you do. Sometimes too much is available. It's not how much satsang you get, it's how well you follow through with things and come to that understanding. Because I would not like it if in 2 years you're still asking these stupid questions. And you're still going, yeah, but with the self, Mooji, what I would just not want to talk to you. I'd rather be talking to somebody new and fresh. And yet, all of you, could be around me physically. If I live for another 10, 20, 30 years, you could be here. But you would have to be fresh. And the only fresh beings I can know is the ones who are without ego. I went to school, a boys' school in England. It wasn't a private school, it was a boys' school like that. And after many, many years, we're still in the same town. Many of the people are still in the same town. But of all of them, I only know one with whom I can be fresh. Everybody else is reminding you about school. You remember so-and-so from so-and-so? He passed away, and yeah, this guy got married, he got divorced, he got this. I said, I want to hear all of this stuff. That's just rubbish. For me. Not rubbish, but it's not what... I haven't seen you for 4 years. All you want to talk about is somebody else's divorce. I mean, what is that? I know one with whom when we meet, not just what we say, because I don't know what we speak about actually, but there is a space inside that being. Do you have that space? You shouldn't have to be around spiritual people to be recognized as being spiritual. You can just be yourself anywhere you are. If you are true, people do come to you and speak with you, because it's not people who are responding to you; it's their presence is responding to you. Because in being in the presence of presence, it stirs up their own presence. It awakens them to their own consciousness. More than if we are so saturated with personhood. Everybody's relating through personhood. It's the common language of the world today. Personhood. To meet a human being, let's put it like this, who is without this personhood. At least it might be there, but it's just vague, like I talk about seeing the moon when the sun is present. The activity of moon, you're not noticing moonlight when the sun is here. To meet someone who is really empty of that. And why not you? Empty of that. And you can have a conversation that is pure. An exchange that is truly, let's say, truly human and truly divine in a way. Because you can somehow feel the heart of the beings. Something guides you into the heart of the being, where you can really commune. You see? So don't waste your time. You want to waste your time? Waste it somewhere else. The majority of beings that we encounter somehow seem to be in a state where there's investment or a kind of unconsciousness with really that type of habit of just talking rubbish. It's really rubbish. It could be your parents, it could be your family, your friends, whatever it is. They just talk about, well, I went to the market yesterday and I saw this girl. It's this type of stuff. Okay? So, in a way, if you're in an environment where you have to encounter people, you have to a little bit either educate people of how they can be with you, because sometimes I've had to say to people, this is not the best way of spending your time with me. Because if I don't say this, then I have to suffer you. So I say, well, I'm sorry, this is not the best way of spending your time with me. Please, let's not talk about that or something. It's not the easiest thing, especially, but sometimes you have to cut something, or you ask, please get to the point. Please get, what is it that you really need to say to me? I'm very busy right now. What is the point? No, not this. What is your point? Sometimes you have to do this. Sometimes. Not all the time. You see? But you'll be surprised at how easy it can become. If I'm taking your example now, you're in an environment like hospital, people coming all the time and so on. And they just get to if you are centered in this, people do come to that point. They just know, don't waste time with this person. Don't waste this person's time. It's something to what your presence convey also. Don't feel that you have to always be nice and to be nice and to accommodate. You see, because in fact, it doesn't serve them, it doesn't serve you. You can say, without being rude, you say, listen, I'm sorry, but you are going on a bit and I'm very busy right now. So is there something you want to say, or should I just leave it like this? You find your way to do it. Being nice is not being nice. Being nice is not being nice. Sometimes not being true. We put too much emphasis on that, social custom and so on. And I'm not saying it's not easy when you see so much and you have a feeling for people. So sometimes you cannot get away. Someone will corner you and you're just not able to get away. And that can be an important lesson also, to just surrender to that moment and let it be, because you cannot go around just keep chopping off arms and legs. You have to sometimes just hold your ground and say, okay, fine, it's meant to be like that, and this lesson is really for me here, and let it go. And when you leave it, you don't carry it. Just let things stay where they happen. Leave them there, and move on sometime. But what I want to say here is, don't allow yourself to bring in a kind of social energy around yourself. Not here. Because if you do this here, you stand no chance outside. There has to be a place, there has to be some, I would like to say that every human being ought to, but I don't really mean that seriously. I'm just saying in a kind of fantasy way. Should have a place that they totally respect, or a group of people, or somebody that you totally respect, who can speak to you clearly and speak to your heart about something. If you don't have that, you are very poor. And equally, you should really, the chance you have to really come home fully to your own inner nature. Don't waste any time. What's the point of spending 20 years in spirituality study and stuff, and you meet a person on the street, you tell no difference between them energetical than anybody else on the street? Then all you've learned is only in your head. You have not swallowed the food in your mouth. You have not digested anything at all. And the people can be like this. Full your mind up of a lot of spiritual talk and a lot of spiritual ideas, but you have not swallowed. You don't have the courage to swallow the food in your mouth. Don't get emotional tied up with people. I'm not saying don't love, feel.
But Mooji, sometimes when you are with certain people, when you are too much yourself and really honest in what you speak out, they can get very angry with you. Or
I'm glad you say that, so I can explain and clarify what I'm speaking more for you. I am not telling you you should go out and be like this and be like that. What I'm telling you is to know yourself, because yourself, as you are, is the wisest. You're going to be wiser than any person who have studied these things. And I tell you why. Because you're not trying to change people. You will come in somehow and meet situation at the appropriate level. If someone's capacity is only at this much, you meet them for the first time and something is already behaving in that synchronicity with them. It's not, oh yes, I must try and really be truthful to you and so. It's very different from this. And I really want this heard. I can't convey always everything I'm saying so precisely, but I'm speaking for myself. If I go into to take my car into the mechanics or whatever it is, and they have a certain kind of level of speaking, I'm not there to teach them truth. I'm here to fix my car. I'm here to fix my car. And when is it so and so? Oh, okay, fine. If there is an opening, mysteriously, something speak, then I'll come from this place. I'm not here to change the world. I don't want to come and change the world.
But I don't speak about that. I just think about, I have to be with my family very close for the next time, because I can't. It's just a practical thing. I have to live there. Yeah. So sometimes there will be buttons pushed.
When was the last time you were there with them?
Last time when I came back from India with my shaved head.
Yeah. So that was how long ago? 3 months?
That was last February.
Last February.
Yeah.
So you're carrying a frozen image of them. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. They may be very much what you expect. You understand? But you are different. I'll tell you, that's what makes the difference is not whether they change, but that you yourself have changed more deeply. Doesn't matter what other people, how they may be, but you become more intelligent, more wise, more loving, more kind, more open, more compassionate somehow inside your being. Without any practice, somehow you just find yourself in a situation and free fall. You'll know somehow in the moment how you behave with them. You'll know whether someone seemed to press a button and the old mind says, well, just tell them this. And something just says no. And put your arm around someone and say, anyway, last time I saw you were so and so, and you look so much more, whatever it is. You find a way. Because you know what? People often, they don't know really what they feel. What they really feel.
What they feel.
You know, you can speak with someone, and just the way in which you communicate with them, and also that things don't go so deep. You feel all kind of reactions, all kind of directions that you could go, but you just stay empty. And if nothing comes, you stay like this. If you're very insecure about it, it may trigger someone saying, are you okay? You don't look so well. You seem very worried, darling, and stuff like this. And you may think, who the hell are you to tell me I'm worried? I'm very spiritual. I'm more spiritual than you. You're the one who should be worried. You may get into this type of fight inside. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Is it?
Hope not.
Don't worry about anything.
Yeah.
Don't
sometimes
anything.
this I can see that my mind already is projecting situations when I come back, what they are going to say to me and how they are. Then
there's no greater preparation than being empty.
yeah.
When we are empty and things on the outside come bursting in.
When they come bursting in. When you're empty and things from the outside, so to speak, come bursting in, you'll find that they have a lot of space in you for them to burst in and still not be troubled. Let them burst in. Let there be a tsunami happen inside and see what happens. If you somehow recognize your true position as only the awareness in which all these things are playing, no trouble will come to you. You'll not be coming from training or from that place, but more from a much wider space. And sometimes your reactions may come and they may surprise you even, what comes from this place. You may say things, do things completely spontaneously, that you would speak words you have never spoken before, or in a way that you have never spoken before. You see? Rather than what your mind predict might happen.
Mooji, I've found a couple of times that just being very still, very quiet around people, and not really troubled by them, but actually sometimes getting a physical reaction like a headache or something
Mm.
could just come.
Yes.
And in actual, real in stillness,
Mm.
but still something like a strong headache or something can come being in that environment.
Yeah, well then, somehow, what can I say about these things? You will discern whether you need to leave that place or stay put if you listen. You can say, if you exercise the kind of personal identity, you may feel like, well, yeah, I can make a choice. I can just leave, and you may leave. All these possibilities may seem to be there. But what I'm speaking of more is an inner sensitivity which knows that you can change the way that you choose to feel about something. And whether this is wind assisted or not. Meaning, when I say wind assisted, whether it's coming from the beingness, coming from that place, or whether it's coming from your projections, just out of your stillness. Sometimes you're with people and you may get a headache, very piercing headache, which is something that just jumps off someone else. Actually, my body is so accustomed to this type of thing that draws a lot of energy from people in terms of their soak up their crap. Basically, I kind of more or less block it now, because mostly I found that sometimes the people just want to offload their spiritual junk, and as soon as they're fresh again, they just fill up themselves with more junk. And I don't want to be the dustman for anyone's sort of junk, unless somehow there's a movement of elevation or maturity towards a higher state of consciousness genuinely. You see. So sometimes you're with people and naturally it happens, you may pick up something, or something is, I don't want to explain these so tightly, but there is a phenomenon like that, where somehow something inside drains off what is discharged from some negative conditioning or something. And usually because it used to go through this body and dissipate very quickly without leaving any trace. But after a while it weighed heavy inside the body. There's a level that one reaches where the work or the interaction between us become very, very light. It's still sometimes a bit heavy, but it becomes very, very light. Just tweaking. Not going through some huge operation or something. I don't want to be so available for things where you can now use the insights to look more deeply into areas that you can see and somehow delete or open up a fresh space of seeing or something. All this you should be able to do. Don't get lazy. Don't cling only to my physical form or something. Make use of the guidance you're offered and finish up a lot of this nonsense stuff. Still, sometimes maybe too much energy is going into investing in kind of personal projections, which is such a waste. Such waste. I don't really want to talk so much about this, because it's a lower stage of interaction. To keep asking little, what I call small time questions. Oh, if this thing happened, and what should I do? Or if, what happens when this happens? Or this is small change. Small change question. If you want to ask a question, ask something that challenges your own self. Ask a question like, this is the only chance you're going to have to ask a question, and that you must find the answer to this today. When I meet people like this, something is just magical. Or that the consciousness is so pleased, so delighted with your company, that everything it passes up is like it's a jackpot of spiritual insight. But I don't meet so much. Some rare time I might find that we can go that far into the seeing that burns away so much of this dross, so much of this waste matter gets burnt like that. What happened in my own case? What happened? I was touched so profoundly, and I am not the only one. Many people have experienced these things, but it was so tremendous, the impact on me, that I just walked out of myself. I walked out of my life, out of the life in here, if you understand what I mean by that. I put everything in a parcel, including my own self, and stepped into the fire of yes.
You mean from one instant
From the
to
very
another?
first, from the very first, from the very first burst of this, the impact of this seeing that took place, my heart was completely open to yes, because I felt so powerfully that this was not a creation of my mind. I never had these kind of concepts until I started to meet people who talk so much about their mind. It's a big habit, a very bad habit, to keep talking about your mind. My mind says this and my mind said that. As I said before, in my culture growing up, if somebody spoke like how we speak and say, oh, my mind is saying these things to my saying that, people don't have this concept of mind. What they just say that is the devil, basically. What you call so comfortably the mind, they just regard as the devil. They say, you got your devil in your head. It wouldn't be such a cool term to use. Oh, my mind is going like this, my mind. People just think, well, you should be in a mental asylum or something, if you like that. It's a habit to speak like this. So I had no doubt in my heart that what had taken place was the higher consciousness, was from God itself. There was no doubt about it. And it was so pure. Just like some of the insights and experiences that you have. But it was so fully in my heart a surrendering. Yeah, just take it, because the ego didn't just go away like this. In fact, it was hanging around inside, taking different subtle shapes, but still in a kind of surrendered state, but still holding itself. So it needed to really go to India to meet Papaji. God brought me to Papaji because it had to come in a human form that could speak to finish off my consciousness was not mature enough to listen to itself internally. It had to somehow come in a way that could come in a human presence or something, and that I could really understand it. Life is doing this. It's keep coming back to you in a kind of physical, material form in order to act out the scenarios that's happening inside your mind. So then you can say yes or no, whereas maybe internally you were not able to comprehend what is happening.
Actually, that's exactly what happened to me when I found you. When I saw your first video on YouTube, that I couldn't believe that there exists a person in this world who is speaking exactly what I feel is inside of myself. And it touched me so deeply that I just had to come and find you. But there must be before something there, because otherwise
everything is being
your voice
prepared.
wouldn't
Everything
touch
is
me
being
so
prepared
deeply.
already inside you. For us to be meeting and sharing like this is already the work of the totality. If you want to call it your mind, it's just another way of calling it the consciousness. that somehow your mind was open to this? What made it open to that? Why is not your aunt or your cousins here? Because it's open inside this body. The consciousness functioning inside this body is somehow attuned enough to that vibration to say it is attracted to it. It's not an accident, but very often we waste it. In a sense, I can say that. I can change my language and speak different ways about it, but now I feel like saying, in a way, we kind of waste it, you see. Because you give it again to the mind, and the mind just puts some other kind of notions around it. But already something is inside, a kind of inner quality, an inner temperament or something, that is attracted to truth. Something inside is attracted to truth, and something inside is attracted to lies. And it just depends which one comes out on top. As soon as we begin to really say yes to the true, not a superficial, not a mouthy yes, but a yes from inside, to say, no place inside me is it hidden from you. So whatever is hidden that myself I cannot see, I surrender to your feet, to the Supreme Master. And its work begins, the work of grace begins to clean your house, to wash out all the distraction, the distracting, embedded consciousness, to uproot all that is not true. Somehow. It may take time. And as I said the other day, what if it was going to take the rest of your life to do it? Are you up for it?
Yes.
Yeah, if it is up for the rest of your life, whatever that may mean, then, because what other choice have you got but to go back into the foolishness? And it is a kind of choice. If you say yes to that, and there are ways it can come to you. It can come in the form of a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that. Not saying boyfriend, girlfriend is a bad thing, but I'm saying it can come. If you have something that you're still holding division inside yourself, then that will also come as a scenario sometime, you see. And it will entice that part of you that is gravitating towards that. And then you are going to spend another 6 months or six. Sometimes I used to say, if somebody, starts a new relationship in the early days, I say, I won't see you for 6 months. And if you have a child, I won't see you for 6 years. Because you're going to be in that life for a while. And for many of the people in that time, it was true for them. Now, amongst you, there's a much more maturity. There's something like that. There's a bit more maturity, more depth, and so on. So there's much more a stronger presence here. And so I feel it's less likely that the mind can get on top of you. But it does sometimes, momentarily in little places. But you have the power to finish him. And don't be kind to the mind. Not yet. Better you cut all this story, all this the kind of nonsense. And I hope you understand what I mean by that. I'm not saying don't love your family, don't. No, it's not this. But there's a kind of nonsense that happened inside. And just to look at whose story is this, and who or what is interested in carrying this on. Look at it like that. And be very quiet. Something will help you to focus on what notions you're carrying internally, which is impeding, blocking your recognition and your merging mind into the heart. Something like this. Funny that we are all this thing, and yet it can take lifetimes to understand what it is, to know it in your heart what it is. And sometimes I look and I might say something like, I don't think the human world is such an elevated thing at all. I don't feel it is. I don't believe that we are the highest state of expressed consciousness in the universe. I really don't feel like this. Because it's really a poor show. What I would say is that we have our potential and our capacity is very high, because it has already been proven in the form of the Buddha, of Ramana Maharshi, or Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, human beings that we know. Even if you say that I don't know if Buddha really lived, we know ones that has lived. I have met personally myself. That brought again that awakening into my own heart, complete. You see. So you know, if one has done it, then that hole is perforated in the bubble of consciousness. That if one has do it, then the capacity is in everybody to do it. And there's not one. There are very, very many expressions of that one. Somehow the pull of the consciousness towards more Rajasic or Tamasic states is very strong here. You know, maybe at different times there was probably a higher proportion of Sattva for short periods of time, and but more, what you may call in this period, where the saturation is more in more tamasic functioning, rajasic functioning of the mind consciousness. I just sometimes want to tell you, just throw the whole bloody lot. Why are you hanging around with these carcasses of thoughts? What are we getting out of it? Sometimes for some beings you can say, throw it, and they can throw it. Some beings you can say, forget about all that, and immediately they forget about it. They're rare. Yet the capacity is in all of us. Some beings say, forget, drop it, and they can drop it. Others, it takes a whole procedure of dropping, and because we are still so not sure, I'm not sure if I can trust you, I'm not really sure if I'm really there. All the mind stuff, you see. And we cannot dismiss that this mind, although it's illusory and delusory, you know, it is the glue that's holding somehow the beings hostage and bondaged somehow. Because the tar has such a stickiness, and something inside the consciousness gravitates towards that taste, to be in the state of personhood, to enjoy the feeling of personal autonomy and all that. It's an attraction. Powerful forces are working in that way, and yet none of it can transcend even the kind of innocence of the being. You see, you don't have to learn a lot to transcend your mind. You don't have to learn a lot at all. You just have to have the right understanding, and to be again in your correct position, rather than the very limited position of the ego mind. Something is growing less patient. And it's good, you know, because always the consciousness in its dynamic expression will be changing. Here also it's changing. Sometimes it's been such a stretched patience for things, and now I'm getting very impatient. You see, and sometimes I want to throw people overboard, just throw them out the bloody ship, and then burn the ship also. There's a feeling like this. Don't gather dust around me. Don't grow cobwebs around. I wouldn't be able to cope with you. It has to be fresh. And to be fresh, you have to drop yourself. Meaning drop your this egoic identity, or at least be working to remove that impediment seeming. You're leaving tomorrow. A few people leaving. What if I never saw you again? Because I don't myself hold out and dwell in such projections like, yeah, well, I see you next week. I don't know what this is. I don't know what that is. to make this type of statement. Yeah, come next week, I'll be here. Yeah, probably. I don't know, that in the form that you speak about. So I like to check in and say, you have everything it takes, you have what it takes now. Your mirror is with you. Your mirror is the consciousness itself and the mind. Or are you going to be another Lakshman who has to come back over and over again? One of for me, the blessings in my life is to have a body that's not so well, in fact. Because it never permits you to think in terms of future and things like that. This is a blessing. Sometimes you're very fit, you think you are indispensable. Yeah. But you're still thinking in terms of your physicality. Don't hold out for any utopia, any nirvana in the human kingdom, in the personal world. It's just not going to happen. Maybe your fantasy, if it's strong enough, might produce effects in consciousness that resemble what you may think, but it will only be a flash.
Do you speak now about fantasies about all this 2012
No,
stuff?
I don't have time for that. I'm talking about, well, including that, okay,
Yeah,
if you want.
I mean,
but,
that's it can be called an utopia, no? That people have all these projections about a certain
Yes.
age.
Yes. You can put. I wasn't directly thinking of that like that, but why not? It includes this. But
You mean in general, like idealisms, people who project
idealism, and sometimes just wishful thinking, just fantasies. Sitting around, got nothing better to do. Create a fantasy is the cheapest form of entertainment. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. You can keep projecting stuff. And I have known people whose life is that, whose life is really just almost replaced by fantasy. No, that is for me poverty. Because imagination is also a power that we have that is often heavily misused. The bottom line actually is that internally there should be an emptiness in you. Just a kind of an emptiness. There are nicer words we can use, probably for some people, I don't know. But there's a space inside that's not preoccupied with personal dramas, personal needs, personal projections. And this emptiness resonates as what I call a kind of being, a kind of the humming of being, the vibration of a sort of joy, which is synonymous with this beingness. Nothing more needed there. The eyes are open, the senses are open, the capacity for the mind's functioning is still there, but it's not making parcels out of any experience. It has no safety deposit boxes. It is just a field of pure being. When the question arises, if it does, who am I? Which it will do, in fact. But there is tremendous joy in finding nothing. No particular thing you can say, yeah, this is it, that is the self. You are the self. You see. And then all your question, all the nonsense, all the projections, they start to dry up very, very quickly. Very quickly when you're like that. Like sometimes after the rain fall, there are some puddles of water somewhere on the roof of some house or some corner, and you'll find after a little while 1,000 tadpoles are in there. But as soon as the sun comes, it dries up. Everything's dried up. The same way the tadpole thoughts in your mind, everything dry up, not become frogs. I like to meet people who can make big steps, not tiny thoughts. No, big steps that can sweep galaxies away. I'd like to meet that mind that can sweep aside galaxies of concepts. Not little tiny, you know what, if this, no, so please go to bed. Bring someone who is able to sweep aside galaxies of concepts. Come quickly to that thing. After so many years of talking, you know, handfuls of people are coming into that, seeing why. What is your future?
Something burning.
I hope it is the ego. The self does not need any encouragement. If you have come here and you begin to appreciate somehow your family, see them in a new light, appreciate, because something is large enough now inside you to not have to defend. If you've come to this place where something has grown so big, so large, that you don't have to be defending or protecting yourself now, then that is a great beauty for me. And if there is something inside that says, well, you know, like, you know, I really feel something, but I'm really afraid to really go there because maybe I might go there and I feel now an appreciation for my family, but then maybe I might go, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about generally now. I go back and then somehow something is afraid I might just get captured in that life. I said, if you do, it would be really worth finding out. Because it would mean that you've been here all this time and there's still something, you still have, you know, you're still hiding something with like this. So it's better you just go. And I say, I'm totally with you.
It's not that I could find in that life something more appealing than...
Listen,
you know?
I know you're not saying this. You know what I heard from you, what I've heard inside my heart? I heard that something arose like a kind of an appreciation for the family, and I saw and felt that was something
with
pure
distance,
and beautiful.
Still, like, you understand? Like the love, but still...
Yes. And that's fine. And that distance, in a way, you may say, which I'd rather, I probably can use the word detachment.
Yeah.
To a certain
Yeah.
way. That's a healthy thing in life anyhow. And it's not even that you're doing that, I want to keep distance. It's not even that. It's just naturally there. If you have followed my guidance into internally, that is just part of what is present in you. There is a natural feeling of detachment. Don't be afraid of detachment. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is not hatred. It's not having no feeling. It is something more purer. It's a wisdom is there. There's a beauty. It's got infinitely more potential of expression than merely identification with a need or anything like this. So that is something that is just present with you, and I'm happy to find out, because that I feel that trust towards you, that somehow it's in you to do this. I saw it and felt it great thing, and I totally support you in every way that you can think to go. And if it is that you go back and somehow whatever comes, I just feel that you are fine.
It's like this, like I'm being afraid to become weak again.
Yes, this is why I'd like you to go and find out if this happens. I want to go and see if you find
I have
out.
to say, I also had this fear, like 1 or 2 months ago. I had a very, very, very strong fear of being pulled away from here and getting completely lost again in this world, and not taking my opportunity to awaken and just lose it all again. No? But now I don't know, something has completely changed. I feel now when I'm going to leave, there is such a security inside of me that I know there is nothing that can pull me away
This is a great finding.
from this.
This is a great finding. And even, you don't even, and now you're saying it, you express it once, you don't even have to be saying it over and over again. You just, somehow it is known inside. There you go. You don't have to say, you don't know how your heart is going to behave, but you're not worried at all about it. Why should you be? You don't, because that vulnerability, that sense of the person might be gone. It might be gone, but there's a kind of memory that you're not quite sure if the memory is the experience. You see? I give you an example of what happened, and I've shared with some of you already. Where should I pick it up? My mother, for instance. We had a strained relationship for a while, especially when this change took place for me. And, at first she thought I was just a Christian, and it was good. It was a good thing, because she wants all her children to be Christian, naturally. It's understandable. But something else was it's not something else. It's just it was taking a different form. I started to grow my hair and started to feel all these things, and she was saying, "Whoa, what is that?" And she had her own troubles with it. I had a very, very intense experience with my mother, where I felt that she deeply misjudged me. She had asked me to read. I have to tell you this part. She had asked me to read this part of the Bible, and I kind of read it because we were used to doing that, but it hadn't happened for many years. And then somehow I was leaving to go back up to my room, running up the stairs, and about the fourth step, going to the fifth step, it suddenly hit me like, whoa, that isn't innocent what she asked me to do. But I didn't, in the flash of a second, it just I saw the whole thing, that it's a hoax. She was trying to send a message to me using the Bible. It was like cheap trick. Anyhow, I was running up and something went like, whoa. And it was such a powerful rage entered my heart, and I felt, I came back downstairs and I went to her and I said, why did you ask me to read this particular thing? And then she said, well, she started to mumble and fumble about and stuff. I said, why did you ask this? She said, well, I just don't know what's going on with your life. I see you, sort of like all these people around you. I don't like the way, all this type of stuff, and it was so powerful. Anyway, out of this experience, somehow, something changed, and I felt, okay, I don't want to see my mother again right now, because she is like a beautiful, she's like a thorn bush, with a plastic rose on it. You go to and let's got all this stuff. It was like this, and then somehow my heart gonna be hard. I was a bit defensive, because I was ready. So, she could be very painful. So I put my gloves on, And then when we met and I heard her outburst again, I started to tackle this, but in a really beautiful way. This came I started to respond to her from the same Bible that she loves and respects. And anyway, our relationship changed. Now my mother and I, we are very good. We are very good. I lost all the fear from my mom, all of it. I don't know where it came from in the first place. It was such a, I couldn't speak to her. Now we can laugh, and I'm just really good from my part, and I think from her part too. We're very comfortable with each other. But now, even now, if I'm running up the stairs, I'm likely to go, whoa, on the fifth step. It still happened. No. What is significance? There's no significance at all for me. You understand? Some things may still seem to happen on the surface, but they have no depth. They have no depth, because I can't say, oh, this is because of my relationship, because my relationship with my mother is very good now. But that was such a powerful impact inside my consciousness that it's got registered somehow in my body or something, you see? And without thinking, I'm running up into something, whoa. You see? Do I need to work on that? Not at all. What is there to work on? Nothing at all. Do you need to work on something to try and remove this kind of this message inside my body or my DNA? No, it's nothing. I'm not this DNA. I'm not this body. I'm not this behavior. You see? So don't waste energy trying to get rid of the wrong thing. But the mind will help you as well. Or want to. Just understand your place. And what is this place? Again, finally I say. Whatever you can perceive, whatever is perceived in you, as thought, as sensation, as feeling, and so on. They belong to the dynamic expression of consciousness. You cannot just get rid of it. It's there in the consciousness. This is what Sri Maharaj was saying. I leave my human nature to unfold according to destiny. He understood that nature is functioning through this body. And even the mental activity and the sense of person, that's just a kind of, some kind of facade, a kind of role that consciousness seems to play anyway. And he says, I am not bothered about this. I'm not trying to change I'm not trying to stop smoking and whatever it is. I let that just happen. But I know I'm independent of that on some level. And not that I know this theoretically. I am this. I am the one saying I don't bother with this anymore. I don't bother with trying to correct my story. Of course, during in the flow of life, if something comes and you see that there's a behavior that's still coming from the conditioned part of the mind or something, and there's a clear indication to change it, you just change. It's change like this. I'm not saying don't work on nothing. No, work as it comes natural, but don't give so much dedication to trying to change your physical manifestation or something, because that is the aspect of yourself which belongs to time and will be somehow discarded through time. You see? Sometimes you feel like your life is coming up to the edge of a waterfall. You don't know what is all on the other side of it, whether it's a lovely pool or something, or some, whatever. But something is coming, and just like you can smell the rain coming, you can smell sometimes that your life is coming up to, a kind of, it's like a gray area or a great expanse or something like this, beyond which you don't know anything. Your projections cannot live beyond that. Embrace it. Embrace the opportunity, because it's a false sense of comfort to keep just hanging on to the mundane because your life is not threatened by it. Be grateful that life pushes you or give you the sense of reaching some edge beyond which you don't know. Get used to the unknown, because that is yourself. And let the body go through whatever it must go through. I'm saying this lightly now. There may come periods in our life when somebody here, one of us, may go through such a tremendous experience that it really pushes your consciousness to the edge, but you have to again break that edge. So when we speak like this, please don't come with mundane things. Don't show me the dirt on your fingernails. I don't want to see this. Come with something masterful. Begin to look like you're here to slay the myth of ego. Don't come with little stories and stuff, and that's just really not belonging here. Because it is like asking, you want to open this box and this lock and this lock and this lock, and I'm giving you a master key to open all the locks, and you tell me, no, but this key is too big, it doesn't fit my so you're never going to grow up, never going to grow. It's like you grow old, but you don't grow up. You're just staying in the same little pond. I want to feel your immensity, not your littleness, but the immensity. I mean, in a sense, sometimes I feel like I've said everything, but as long as this body's alive, I can keep going to more refined spaces with you. If the capacity shows up to do this. Occasionally, we're able to penetrate so beautifully, and it's a joy. It's a joy to look into something so deeply that you don't have to fix. You only have to say yes to the adventure of seeing, to tackle those energies that come up inside to keep you somehow feeling bound or something, and to go through them. Sometimes you have to put pictures to your thoughts and to experience them, almost like you create a kind of digital world that you have to experience inside yourself in order to break certain false barriers. There's a time for that. I don't want to say that's the target practice or nothing. The real thing is just keep on being, remembering, being in the self as the self itself. Enough. No. I have this feeling that I don't know how to explain that, but there has to be those who awake. It just has to be, to come to the end of the nonsense, that just recognize this purely as the stable truth, not yes, but, and sometimes. Oh, it has to be. The idea that you may turn out to be spiritual hippies, reminiscing about the good old days and Sahaja, how it used to be. That just feels so boring for me. That your heart has to blossom into sagehood or something.